Hello to all our wonderful listeners out there for Flawless Fast Pitch. Today we are beyond honored to be welcoming the amazing Michele Smith, two-time Olympic gold medalist, pitched for Oklahoma, is one of the first women, in 2012 to become a commentator for the nationally televised baseball game. Unbelievable. And of course, you recognize her from doing all her amazing commentary at the College World Series every year. Welcome, Michele Smith.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Excited to talk softball. It's always a great day when we get to talk about the sport we love. So.
Oh my God, absolutely. And you have such an amazing journey that so many people are going to learn from today. So here we go. Let's just dive right in.
Sounds good.
Because you have a very interesting story in that you grew up in Jersey, or you started your career in Jersey, and then you ended up in Oklahoma with, listen to this, ladies, because your jaws are going to drop. You better be sitting down. A .75 ERA, which is like unheard of. That's like they're just praying to score one run off of you. So tell us a little bit about that and what first piqued your interest in softball and pitching.
Well, yeah, growing up in New Jersey, I take a lot of pride being from the East Coast. My dad, I loved to play catch. I loved to be outdoors. I was always a very active child, so my mom was always, throwing me outside to go play. I love the bat and ball sport. So grew up in a neighborhood way out in the country where all the boys and the girls, we'd get together, we'd play flies and grounders. So I just instinctually just loved the game. Learned how to pitch my sophomore year in high school, had a scholarship, went on to play in Oklahoma. And, that really was a blessing for me to be able to go to school, have my education paid for. But that's all the good stuff. That's what everyone kind of sees in the highlights. But behind the scenes of all that was a lot of hard work, a lot of pitching in the gym after basketball practice, a lot of pitching outside after field hockey practice. So I did a lot of different things. But the biggest thing that I did is I worked hard, and that's what you have to do if you want to excel in pitching.
I mean, I think you have a reputation sort of throughout the sport as being one of the hardest workers in the sport, which, I mean, you see that just as like you've had a 20-year career practically in Japan, which is amazing, which I'd like to come back to a little bit. But I mean, what do you feel like sort of drives your work ethic, and what do you do or have you done on a daily basis to really make those constant improvements?
Well, I think the big thing for me is that I recognize the fact that I started a little bit late in, it wasn't until my sophomore year in high school. So I knew I had to work very hard in order to make up all the lost ground that a lot of other kids had the advantage when they started pitching when they 9 or 10 years old. Again, I didn't start to pitch when I was 15. So I knew I had to work very hard. I think the big thing, though, too, is that I was very cognizant of the fact that, yes, I was a good athlete. I probably wasn't the greatest athlete. So I knew that I had to do some things. I had to somehow do things other people weren't willing to do. So I studied it. My pitching coach, the late Betty Zwingraff, she just passed away about a month ago. She was amazing because she pushed me to really learn the sport, learn pitching mechanics, understand what my body was going through, take physics to learn why a ball moves the way it moves. But, the physics is a big part of baseball and softball. So I was always searching for the advantage to be able to put in a little bit more time, a little bit more effort to do things that other people weren't willing to do. And I think that kind of summarizes my career at almost at any level because I worked hard on and off the field.
Ladies, I need you to pay attention here because are you willing to take physics to beat that next level player? Are you willing to do that? Because this is what it takes to be a two-time Olympic gold medalist. I love that concept because I feel like there is so much about physics, just simple, that if you understand, you'll understand the correct delivery of the ball. That is very oftentimes just glossed over. But would you say that Betty was really the coach that sort of most influenced you as a player?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she was the reason I started to pitch. It wasn't my idea. She was the one that I was going to be her project, that she was going to experiment, I guess you could say, with me to see if I could learn the pitching motion, and she challenged me. I mean, she always found a way to either get under my skin to make me work harder or motivate me just enough. I mean, she was very, very smart at relating with people and making you laugh and keeping it fun. But it's the challenge, you know, and I think life is a challenge. I think when we get complacent, we get bored, we get settled, you get into that spot where you're not really motivated, you're not moving forward. You constantly have to have those, I don't know if you want to call them it's not failure, but setbacks. I always view setbacks as set-ups, you know, and that's one of the things I learned early was that when things don't come easy and you have to work very hard for them, you know, when you come out the backside of everything, it's so much more gratifying because you have worked, you've paid your dues, you've gone above and beyond the extra mile that a lot of other people don't. And so, you know, the gratification of accomplishing goals is then that much more sweet or worthwhile.
You know, I love that so much because I think a lot of people, they hit a road bump and they want to give up. And what I have read is that really what makes the difference between these very, very high-level athletes like yourself is that they don't see these setbacks as things that are, you know, going to put them back. In essence, they're using them as motivators. And this psychological difference, you know what I mean? Like, that's what makes that professional athlete, that's what makes that gold medalist.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to be self-critical. You don't want to beat yourself up, so your self-talk is extremely important. Believe in yourself, be in a good spot mentally. But then you have to be critical. You have to go back and say, okay, how could I have done this better? What could I have done differently in this situation? And when you go back and you critique yourself, just as if a coach was critiquing you, or you ask other people to honestly critique you, now you're gaining information, and information is power. Because you have to remember, your opponent is always critiquing you. Your opponent is always looking at you, trying to figure out a way to beat you. So if you figure out a way that you would beat yourself first, you can then adapt and you can change. So you only get better in life in all things when you work on your weaknesses. Not you work on your strengths to maintain them, but if you want improvement, then you have to work on the things that you're lacking in, and that's when you're going to see the greatest amount of growth. And that, again, that's in anything in life, whether or not it's your physicality, if it's your pitching, your studies, music, whatever it is. You have to work on the things that challenge you, that you struggle with, and you revert and make those weaknesses your strengths at some point, and then that changes the entire level of your game.
I think that's just amazing life advice as well, because I know you also do speaking on like a corporate level and on a national level, which is another just incredible accomplishment. And I feel like that's something that could so easily be applied to a corporate setting or a collegiate setting, just, you know, academically as well. So important.
Yeah, it's always fun. I think, you know, a lot of times when you can give that message of be comfortable being uncomfortable is when you have growth in all aspects of your life. And to me, that's what life is about. You know, it's you have the opportunity. We all have an opportunity every single day to wake up and to make a difference. You know, to get better, to help other people get better, to make a difference, to give back. You know, and I think part of my ability to understand and learn that was living in Japan, living in another culture for 16 years, where their culture is more about everyone else around them. You have to think they're a country about the size of California with half the population of the U.S. So it'd be like everybody west of the Mississippi moving into California, extremely densely populated. So you learn when you live in that environment not to be inward focused. You don't focus on yourself. You focus on how are my actions affecting other people around me. It's the complete opposite of here in the U.S. In the U.S., we're very inward focused. We only think about ourselves. It's not always about how am I affecting other people or how am I as a teammate affecting my teammates. You know, those are the things. When you want to become a great teammate, you look at how you're impacting the team. How are you making your team better? Not just yourself better, but how are you making your team and lifting the level up? And so I'm very grateful for my experience in Japan for really teaching me how to be not just a great ball player, but a great teammate and great human being.
I think the Japanese word is mewaku, right? That That means, right? You gotta be good to other people. My husband and I actually just got back from Japan, and I think the culture there is something I feel that every American should experience for that very reason.
Yes.
And you can see the progress in Japan is at a completely different level, I think, for that reason, in so many different areas, because it's not just all about me, 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 me. And I think it's very hard as a pitcher to not make that sport about you sometimes. You have to really say to yourself, like, I am going to make this about, like helping my team and winning for my team. And yeah, it's incredible. Everyone needs to go to Japan.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things that it did teach me is that because I was fortunate, I played with some amazing Japanese ball players. Quite a few of them were Olympians for the Japanese Olympic team. But, I would always be in a position where if a ball was smashed at my shortstop and she made an error, I didn't get upset with her. I got upset with myself. Like, what could I have done differently so that ball was hit at her at a more reasonable pace or in a situation where she could have made the play? And, a lot of times as a pitcher, it's so easy to point the finger. Oh, my catcher didn't call the right sign. My shortstop made an error. It's so easy to just, point the fingers in the wrong positions. But you lose control when you do that. And so I always try to tell pitchers and young athletes, accept the responsibility, because when you accept the responsibility, it empowers you to be able to make the change. What can you do differently next time so that ball is hit a little bit differently so your shortstop can make the play? Those are the things when you start to learn to think like that as a pitcher, it helps your game and it helps your team, because then your teammates aren't afraid to play behind you as well. We've all seen that pitcher that just gives, the defense a hard time behind them. And people don't like to play behind that. Defensive players want to play behind a pitcher who's in control, who's going to take responsibility, is going to lift the team up instead of pressing them and pushing them down. And the same thing goes from a coaching position.
And I think I love that so much, because also then they know that you have their back, that it's not going to be like, well, why didn't you make that play? Because that just makes everyone on edge and unhappy, and this is just, that's a whole new way of thinking about things. And yeah, I do think it's a very un-American way of looking at things, but that's what makes the stronger team sort of from the inside out.
Right.
And you wonder, like, Japan beat the U.S. in the last Olympics, obviously. I'm interested to see where this is going to go in 2020. I'm very interested. What are your thoughts on, the softball being introduced back into the Olympics in 2020?
Well, I'm excited. From the day it was voted out in the Singapore session back in 2005, I've been very involved with the International Softball Federation, traveling all over the world to help promote the sport, get back in front of the IOC, talk to the past president of the IOC, Jacques Rogue, who really was part of the reason why baseball and softball were pulled out, because he wanted golf and rugby into the Olympics. We now have a new president in the IOC, Thomas Bach, who's very good. He's progressive. He understands that, if you're asking cities to spend billions and billions of dollars, you need to have sports in the Olympics that people are interested in. And it was overwhelming. I think the Japanese public, there was like a 95% vote that they wanted baseball and softball in the Olympics. They're a huge diamond sport nation, which is great. And rightfully so. They've got some of the best athletes in the world. And so I'm super excited we'll be on the Tokyo 2020 program. But we have to keep fighting. I've done a lot of work over the last 8 years since I've been retired to go over to Europe. We have to continue to share our knowledge as one of the strongest countries in the world, share our knowledge of our sport with the rest of the world so that level can continue to grow and increase so that we can stay on the Olympic program. So I've been very diligent about spending time in Europe, trying to help out a lot of the European countries to improve their programs. And, I think that's one of the things as a culture and a mindset as Americans, we need to go out and try to help other people become better, and because by doing that, we make ourselves better, we make the world better, we make our sport better, and then we stay on the program. But yeah, I'm super excited for 2020. It was a long, hard battle. So when that vote came out positive, I think that's just, I was like, and oh, good, maybe someone.
I know, it's so exciting. I literally had like chills, just like this a physical react. I had a physical reaction to softball is back at the Olympics in 2020. Like, I couldn't believe it. But I think it's just so important what you're saying about, helping over in Europe. P.S. If you ever need any help with that, please let me know, because
Thank you.
like, I've been over and helped in Italy, and I think it's, like, amazing to see, like, the level of enthusiasm, and even just for, like, equipment and things that we take for granted here. They have a hard time getting over there, and you don't think, because it's not like it's a third world country, it's not like that, but they just don't have the level, I feel like, that we have over here yet. Exactly. As we give more to them, we have to bring our game up, and we have to start thinking about our teammates and really the people who love our sport throughout the world, so we can become more of an international culture in sport. It's just amazing. It's amazing. So, I mean, do you feel like your commentary is just incredible? Also, like, as a fan of your commentary, I love how, of course, when you do, like, the World Cup and so on and so forth, you're able to interpret, obviously, Japanese.
Yeah.
And, I mean, how do you feel like doing commentary has really changed your perspective on the game?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because as a ball player, you think one way. As a coach, you think another. And as an analyst, you kind of try to be in everybody's head and be like, okay, if I'm a ball player, this is how I'm feeling, this is the situation. As a coach, well, this is what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking ahead down the road. How's the opponent thinking? The umpires, you kind of have this 30,000-foot view of the game, and you're talking about it. A little bit of speculation, like what you feel like the teams need to do, one if they're behind, the other if they're ahead. So it's a lot of studying, too. It's a lot of homework. It's learning the players, the tendencies of the players, and as well as, are you calling an international game? Are you calling a collegiate game? Or are you calling a Little League game? So there's so many variables that come in to being an analyst, and then understanding the television industry as a whole. It's really been a lot of fun. It's kept me involved with the game and the youngsters, the young athletes. It's always so inspiring to see them so excited. And I think back when I was, a young athlete, even before I was starting to pitch, how much, you just love the sport and the opportunity to play and compete. And it's challenging for sure. I mean, I definitely have those days where you get off the air and you're like, oh man, I messed that up. I should have done this. I should have done that. And then you have other games where you get off the air and you're like, woo, that was awesome. You're like, man, we called that perfect. And, so it's challenging in the sense that it's always moving. It's always evolving. And the TV industry is just, it's a lot of fun. And I have to say that, ESPN has been a huge part of the growth in the collegiate softball game. You look at the number of games that are on television nowadays, it's just outstanding, and it's really helped our sport. It's helped young ladies a lot, and that's what I love. It's opportunities for young ladies to go on and play in college at any level, doesn't matter what level, but at any level, opportunities for careers, not just in coaching and athletic training and in management, but also in the television industry. So yeah, it's really been a great blessing for our sport.
Yeah, I think I can't say enough wonderful things about just ESPN in general, which I feel like is just a great sort of, it's just sort of a brand. I almost, it's not even a station anymore. ESPN has become like this great brand that has been able to, like, take our sport to just a completely different level. Like, it's just amazing to see how much it's changed even over the past 5 or 6 years, I feel like, because of that.
And the other thing that I love about it is the commitment, as you say, the brand of ESPN, but the number of people that love our sport, that never played our sport, but are a part of our sport because they're working in a television game. Producers, directors, you have audio people, you have graphic folks, you have researchers. You have the runners, you have all the cameramen, you have stage managers. It's amazing the number of people that team, that ESPN team that gets together every time you see a softball game on air. And in the middle of the season, when you've got back-to-back softball games, you figure 30, 35 people at, game one that starts at 11 a.m. and then another 35 to 40 people at, game two that starts at 1, and then another 35. I mean, the number of people that are truly involved in our sport is just outstanding. And then the Women's College World Series is amazing. If you've never been to Oklahoma City to see that event, you have to go. It is the atmosphere is unreal. And even there for ESPN, we have two teams that come in. So we have a dayside crew, a nightside crew. You're looking at probably 90 to 100 people working behind the scenes to make that event happen. It really is an amazing event to attend.
Oh my God! See, look at this girl. This can be your future, right?
Exactly.
So I know, and actually, we wanna not take up too much of Michelle's time today because she has to get on the phone with ESPN, very shortly.
Yes.
Speaking of which, but I have kind of like I have a couple of questions that I want to just touch on briefly. Like, what's your approach? Do you feel like as an instructor, particularly like regarding the mental game of young athletes?
I think mentally you have to learn to stay strong. You have to be, as I mentioned earlier, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You mentally have to understand that setbacks are set-ups. Use it as a challenge, figure out a way to make things work. And use your mentality to be a stepping stone for your physicality then, to figure out, I'm going to stay strong mentally, and physically this is what I'm going to work on to make myself better. I'm going to work on my mechanics. I'm going to work on studying my mechanics. Look at the best pitchers in the world. Just because I say it, it's usually not just my beliefs, but I've studied it for years and years. Look at Lisa Fernandez and Denny Finch, and just look at video of some of the best pitchers in the world. Most of us, even though we look slightly different when we're pitching, 90% of what we're doing is very similar when it comes to hip angle and driving off the pitching rubber and arm extension and your glove arm. Where's your glove arm going? All those things are super important, and don't be afraid to learn from other people. Lisa Fernandez and I were a 1-2 punch for Team USA for over 12 years, and we made each other better. I mean, she would help me with my drop ball, I would help her with her rise ball or whatever. I mean, we were constantly sharing information back and forth, so you just have to always keep learning on all aspects of the game.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is slow motion video. You could now, what's so great is you could compare side to side. You could do yourself in slow motion, and then especially as a lefty, be able to put that next to video footage of you in slow motion. You'd be able to say, okay, where do these two things differ, and where can I improve? And then you can do that with like several other lefty pitchers that have really excelled at a great level. It's just, it's totally a different thing. So last question, okay, so we can get you out of here in good time. But what do you think is one of the biggest challenges facing pitchers that want to be at an elite level today, and how do you think they can resolve that?
Well, I think there's a lot of competition out there. There are a lot of great athletes. There's a lot of opportunity in softball, so you're seeing more and more women stay in the sport of softball instead of go on and play volleyball or basketball or whatever. So I think there's a lot of competition. And so you have to be able to figure out, how are you going to set yourself apart? How are you going to work harder than other people? It's kind of like I said earlier when we first started talking. You have to be willing to do what other people are not. You have to be willing to spend an hour every day in the weight room. You have to be willing to figure out, all right, what's my heart rate when I'm pitching? Most people think that their heart rate's 120 or 30 beats a minute when you're pitching, and that's not the case. If you wear a heart rate monitor, most pitchers are working so hard, you're at the 150, 160, 170 level. That's like the sprinting heart rate. So if you're just going out and jogging and working on your fitness and you're jogging at 130 beats a minute, that's not cutting it. That's not getting you prepared to pitch. So you have to gather as much information as you can and work as hard as you can. Cycle, lift weights, study video, not just of yourself, how you can improve your mechanics, but your opponents as well. Really learn how to read a hitter and what is their weakness. How am I going to pitch to the weakness of the hitter? How am I going to pitch to the strength of the hitter? But when I'm pitching to the strength of the hitter, I'm throwing them balls. I'm trying to make them chase that pitch out of the zone. Those are all little nuances that you learn as you get older, and you continue to get experience when you play. So I think a lot of it is coming back to having great mentality, but physicality, working extremely hard off the field. Because everybody works hard on the field nowadays. If you want to set yourself apart, you got to work harder off the field.
Oh my God, I love that so much. The heart rate monitor, girls, if you have not written that down, you get your pen out right now, or put it in your phone. I don't care. Set an alarm. Use the heart rate monitor. That is like the best idea I've heard probably ever. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I know you have to go. We are so honored to have you here today. And please, anything that you'd like to talk about in the future, we'd love to have you again.
Absolutely.
And girls, this is the person you want to learn from. This is someone who's broken barriers, who's done just amazing things, not only for our sport, but for women as a whole. You have to try and keep up with this. Can you imagine? Thank you so much, Michele. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And 2020, looking forward
That's right.
to it. Thanks so
Forward to
much.
talking with y'all again. Keep working hard.